Hey there, today the moon continues in Sagittarius, so we have a mood of the day that is reflective, processing and digesting what unfolded or emerged during the Scorpio full moon, around that Scorpio full moon, and over the past weekend when we had the moon in Scorpio. So let's talk a little bit about self-care for today's Sagittarius moon. I'm Marina Orms here with your Astro vibe for Wednesday, May 14th. And so things are starting to calm down a little bit. If you noticed a lot of intensity, feelings coming up, things to process, things that are hard to talk about or come to terms with, moving with that Scorpio moon that we had over the weekend and then into the full moon on Monday morning Pacific time. So we had that intensity, and now things are calming down a little bit as we get that pause. Sagittarius brings the energy of reflection. So I like to think of it as like that moment when you are returning from a trip and you're on the plane or train or whatever you're traveling on, and you're having that opportunity to think about what happened, where you've been, process some of the events and things that unfolded during your journey, right? Whether it is a literal or metaphorical journey, things that happened and need that moment to kind of think through it, like go over it in your mind and reflect on what happened so that you can begin to make sense of it, to understand it, to organize it in your mind and your understanding so that you can then get home. So you're having that pause on that metaphorical airplane when you're returning home, and you have this quiet time, right, to kind of think about and reflect on the meaning of recent events, kind of process and digest. And that helps you to make sense of what has been happening or what was happening during your adventures, shall we say. And so with that pause, that opportunity to just not even like actively think about things, but just to have that opportunity to where where the onslaught of stimulation is no longer happening, so that you have that opportunity to just be and process and digest what you've been through in recent experiences. So then, when you metaphorically, right, like that plane lands and you get home, and now you're going to see people and they're going to ask, how was your trip? Where have you been? What did you do? What did it mean to you, right? What was important to you about it? And you have this opportunity to put it into words, to tell your story, to say, here's where I've been, here's what I loved, here's what was I didn't like so much, or what was challenging, and just to sort of contextualize your experiences and begin to make sense of them. So that's what we do with the moon in Sagittarius. We have that moment to pause, to reflect on the bigger picture of what is unfolding in our lives, what is asking for our attention or asking for us to move through a change process. And so beginning to see, okay, this is what that change process was about. This is where I've been. This is where I'm heading. This is how this set of events that I've been moving through makes sense in the bigger picture, and I can see where it's heading in terms of what it means for my future and what comes next. So that's how we want to think about this Sagittarius moon. It is a waning moon, now past full. So we're integrating, we're processing, we're digesting. And with this Sagittarius energy, just having this opportunity to pause and reflect and make sense of what has been unfolding or emerging into our consciousness. For self-care, it's just a great time to give yourself that downtime, that pause, that ability to reflect, maybe make some notes, right? You have the opportunity to take the time. It's like you're not in the middle of it anymore when the moon goes into Sagittarius. When it was in Scorpio, you were in the middle of it. And so now, there's an opportunity to maybe write down some highlights or some bullet points or I don't know what, put it into words, write in a journal, do some art, listen to some music. That's a good way to also help support your own process as you just digest and take that moment of pause where you're not pushing yourself to respond or react or need to try to make sense of things that feel intense when you're in the middle of them. So taking that time for yourself, that extra moment to breathe, to slow down, to reflect, to see the bigger picture. What is happening that is perhaps different than what you might have thought it was when you were in the middle of it, right? So when you're in the middle of it, it's coming at you. You feel like you have to respond or react, or you might just have the feelings coming up, but the only context you have for what is coming up is your past, is how you understood things or what happened before. So if you're on that metaphorical journey, right, traveling to a different country just symbolically, the only way you have to make sense of what is happening is to put it in the context of what you already know. And so when something happens that is unexpected or feels intense or feels emotional, you're making sense of it based on your past experiences. But once the moon goes into Sagittarius, then you have that opportunity to see how this might be different based on where you are going now for the future, where you are heading in the future, where the future is inviting you to step, right? So you've got that opportunity to begin to make sense of things in that bigger picture, from that bigger perspective of what is changing, because it will look different in the future than it did in the past. So I know that every month the moon goes from Scorpio into Sagittarius, and every month we have this opportunity to reflect on what we felt during a Scorpio moon. But this one is particularly intense in terms of bringing things up on an emotional level, connecting with what has been hidden, buried in the subconscious because of this recent full moon in Scorpio. Had some intense energies, some energies of shift and change. And so now we have the bigger picture perspective that we can start to make sense of that. What is different from where we were in the past? What might look different as we are heading into the future? What is shifting and changing? And how we can begin to understand some of the feelings, some of the things that have come up, some of the potential intensity as we process that and make sense of it. We might be able to see a little bit more clearly about where it is leading us in the future, what is possible for the future, because Sagittarius brings the energy of optimism, hope for the future. So glimpses of what is possible that is different than what we thought was possible before, because we're starting to see that glimpse of what things look like now and getting a little bit more clear about that. So hopefully that is helpful to you in your process and your self-care and gives you some idea of the energies and what is unfolding. I am Marina Orms, and I'm here every day with Astrology for Unshakable Self-Care. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And thank you to all you regular viewers who watch me every day, or if you come back from time to time, that's great too. And my website is astrologyheals.com. I look forward to seeing you as we continue on this amazing journey and how the planets help us get that bigger picture perspective for where we are at and how to make the most of it. All right, see you next time. Bye for now.